Okay, so hello everyone again, and welcome to our November call. Let's start. If I will manage to change the slide. Okay, so quickly, Microsoft event code of conduct. I'm not going to be reading out to you, just to quickly remind everyone that we are an official Microsoft super user group. So we are applying to the official code of conduct. So if there is anything that doesn't look right to you, please contact with Microsoft directly or speak with me, Kat, or Charlie. We are expecting everyone to be respectful towards each other and everyone to be allowed to express their opinions, whether we are agreeing with each other or not. So please be mindful of that. Moving forward, as I said, just to echo on that and add a couple of more points, that if you do have a question, either please use the chat feature or raise your hand during the presentation, just so we won't disturb our two presenters today. And again, at the end of the event, we will be sharing feedback with you. So please let us know what tools or resources you would like to hear more about, and we will try to accommodate all your requests. So another couple of housekeeping rules. So first of all, the call is being recorded. So if you don't wish your lovely face to be on the video, please turn the camera off. Also, during the presentation, please encourage our speakers by using the meeting reactions, either clapping or hearts or whatever you wish. But as I said, this is very encouraging for our speakers to know you appreciate and like their content. Also, we encourage everyone to apply to be one of our speakers. Those speaking sessions can be short, either 10-15 minutes or half an hour, is entirely up to you. We are also open to any subject from across Power Platform that covers either user experience, user interface, or accessibility. So as I said, anything within the Power Platform. So whether it's Power Apps, Power BI, or whatever your specialty is. And without the further ado, I would like to start with today's presentations. We have two lovely presenters. First one is Keith, then we will have Kat. So let's start with Keith, who will be presenting for us on crafting responsive Canvas app Power Apps. Apologies, I misread that. I will stop sharing now. Keith, if you can start sharing for us, that would be great. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for the double thumbs up, Kat. Great to see everyone here. Yeah, really appreciate being able to speak. So yeah, thanks, Kat, and Anya and Charles. I've been a big fan of these events, so being able to speak at one is super awesome. So my session is going to be crafting responsive Canvas Power Apps. It's going to be around the 30-minute mark, or maybe just a bit longer, if that's okay, Kat. Hopefully won't impact yours too much. Also, a little bit about me. My name's Keith Atherton. I've met some of you. It's great to see some familiar faces here. Some folks I've not seen for a while, and other folks as well. I'm a Power Platform solution architect. Get up to some other community shenanigans now and again as well. But if anyone's got any questions and we don't find time during the session, hopefully we'll get some time at the end for some quick Q&A. If not, just reach out to me online. Always happy to help out if I can. So just scan the QR code or just find me on LinkedIn or Twitter. There aren't going to be many slides to this. I'm going to be mostly hands-on, but the things we're going to cover are: why would we want a responsive app? Model-driven app responsiveness, just to look at that briefly. The bigger part will be the Canvas app responsiveness options. And then a brief look at some multi-device layout patterns, in particular a blog post that's really useful, just to outline those. So let's bring up a Power App right here. So first up, I'm just going to show very briefly, in fact, you know what, before I jump to the app, one thing I'll mention is really, responsive apps or responsive web design, there are many reasons why we might want this. But some of the core ones are, I've gone to W3 Schools. There are other good sites there as well for web development and so on. But it's really about getting the web pages or the screens that will look good on multiple devices. So if we've got different screen sizes and different viewports, so this mock-up they've got here is with a laptop, a tablet, and a mobile device. It might be that you've got different aspect ratios or different resolutions, or you might have it in a portrait mode or a landscape mode. So the short version really is just to make sure that it's a slick experience for users, no matter what that device is. Now, if I scroll further down, again, this is a bit more of a web dev focus to start with. I know many others, Charles and many others who've got that kind of a background might be familiar with this. Is if we go to this example here in this CSS snippet, there's really a concept known as media queries. And really what this is doing behind the scenes, again, this is a bit of a pro code geeky way of doing it, but you're really specifying that if that width reaches certain breakpoints, then you might adapt the layout of the elements on the screen based on that width. So again, if you've got a big wide screen, you might be able to fill it, just as this page does right here. If you've got something in portrait on a small mobile device, you might actually show and hide different elements, or change that big menu to a small hamburger menu, or do other things based on that size. So really, that's kind of a bit of background on how responsive web design is done when it's code-based that way. Now, some of us who may have built some websites and things like this may be used to different frameworks as well. So a common one out there, one I use quite often, and it gets loaded with other frameworks, is Bootstrap. So this is a great way where they can provide some of their own controls, but handle that responsiveness for us as well. Saves us a lot of work. Super, super useful. Now, Bootstrap, I'll just go down. This is free to use. We can use it right here. There's various ways of getting hold of it. If I go to some examples at the top, we can go down. We can see it gives us different layouts and different controls that could be useful as well. So this can give us a good starter for 10. We can then customize things beyond this, set our own styling, change other things that we need to as well. But again, one of the big parts of this is that it handles that responsiveness for us out of the box. It's a big time saver. So if I go to the Bootstrap grid system, again, this is quite Bootstrap specific, but it gives us some background on responsive design. So right here, they've got this Flexbox grid, rather, just to explain how they do it. And they've also got a 12-column system. They split the page. So any thoughts in the chat or otherwise why we might have 12 columns or why that would be useful? I'll keep an eye out and let's see. Yes, big Franco's there. Big fan of the Bootstrap. Love it. Great stuff. Okay, so I'll jump to the reason for this. Yeah, super useful. So one of the reasons there's 12 columns is that the number 12's got many divisors. So you can divide it into thirds, quarters, halves. So the great thing with the grid system is that you've got a lot of flexibility there. There's lots of different layouts you can have. So things like here where we've got 3 equal columns, we might go further down where we might get a mix of different things, halves, thirds, and so on like that. So again, having something like a 12 means we've got lots of options available. And that's really how Bootstrap works in a nutshell anyway. So if I jump back to the Power App world, the first thing I'm going to look at here is a model-driven app. And the great thing with model-driven is they're going to have responsiveness out of the box. So again, another massive time saver that does the work for us. So if I go to one of these forms right here for some account management and go down to here, if we look at this main section, we've really got 3 columns. So we've got this main information, new section, and primary contact, and so on. So if I reduce the width of those 3 columns, eventually go down to 2. Again, there's likely going to be a breakpoint in use around this point when it snaps between the 2 and the 3. Again, if I go further again, that 2 goes down to a 1, and those different sections have been stacked vertically. So we can still access them, but it's adapted, it's been responsive, it's changed the layout for us. So may not always be the layout changes that we want, but by using this pattern, it's known as the column drop pattern, it's actually done the work for us and made it responsive. So again, there's a massive time saver with that, and it could be useful on many different devices. So it's super, super useful. However, if we go to Canvas app, and as the name suggests, we've got the blank canvas, which means we've got to do the work ourselves if we want to make it responsive, then we do have a few other options to implement that as well. So the first thing we'll look at is if we're going to go ahead and add a new screen. Now, we do get some options out of the box for responsive design. So we've got things like split screens, sidebars, and header and footer. And with many web pages and different apps, these can be quite common layouts, quite useful. So again, they're going to be a useful starting point if we want a responsive design. We could probably see from the previews as well. Let's say this is a bigger screen right there with a left and a right container. But on a portrait mobile device, we've got them switched to be upper and lower. So you can maybe see how the layouts may change depending on what we use there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and have a look at this sidebar as an example of what that can look like. Okay, so all I've gone and done here is just chosen that sidebar screen and give it some lovely pastel colors and just a bit of text to identify which of those different parts of the screen that we have. So right now we've got a header, a sidebar, and a main content right there. So if I go ahead and put this in preview mode, and again, just change this width, we'll see there'll come a point where that layout does change and it does stack them vertically, almost like the suggested one we could see in the preview. So again, there's a great way of getting some responsive design without having to build it from the ground up. So it can give us a starting point, or we might want to change the layout that it provides, change the proportions of the screen it takes up and so on. But that can give us a really good starting point. So another thing we can do as well, while in here as well, again, I just crudely move the width of the screen just to sort of change the layout. But if we did want to actually test to say what would this look like on a different device, there are a few ways where we can actually use the dev tools within the browser. We can actually go ahead and put it in device mode and actually change that right here if we need to. But one of the useful things with Canvas apps is we've actually got this device preview feature right here. So we can go ahead and say, okay, I want to see what this looks like on an Apple iPad 10.2. Kind of mimics what the device would be. And then we can kind of get like a rough idea. It's a bit boxier. It's not quite the same 16:9 or widescreen ratio that we've got. And we can go ahead and actually just test, what different devices would look like. The other good option, we've got these tablets right here. We can specify a custom if ours isn't listed in these commonly used ones. We can change the phones as well and actually see, what that would look like there as well. And we've also got the option right here where we can change that orientation between portrait and landscape as well. So a super useful way of getting a good preview of what it would look like. However, saying that, I would say nothing really beats getting hands-on with the actual devices. I've actually had this on a few projects where not having the actual devices, we've then found out later on that the customers used a device that's maybe been in a kiosk mode. It's actually had some of the borders around it and actually taken some of that screen real estate away. Or where they've actually had scaling or zooming on the device as well, just to increase that font size. And again, that has had some impact on the layouts and the responsiveness. So really getting the hands on the actual physical devices, it is really that's the ideal if you can do that. So I'll go ahead and move that back into the window size. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is just have a look at this. If I expand this in the tree view, we can see this is actually made up of several containers. And they're really kind of like the key part of responsive design within Canvas Power Apps. So it's really that they'll control the layout. And what we've got is actual controls that are actually based in those different containers. And the containers handle all the movement and the changes to the layout. So if we look at some of these components a bit more, I'll move on to a new blank screen. I'm going to go ahead and go to Insert and look at Layout. And we've got a few options. So we've got several galleries and then several containers as well. Just going to have a look at a few of these. So first up, a few things that we can use with galleries and other controls as well. I'll just go ahead and add one with this lovely sample data that it provides us with. Let's move this to the origin right up there. Let's just whack a border on that so we can see it as well. There we go. So some things we can do with this is, again, bearing in mind responsiveness, it might be that we're scaling things related to the parent or to other controls. So something as simple as selecting this gallery. Let's go ahead and change the width to the parent width, which is actually the screen. We could do the same with the height as well. Just to snap it to its surroundings as well. So the more we do that with containers or sub-containers and go further down the tree view, if you change anything at the parent level, it would then change anything that's contained within it as well. Let's just reduce that a little more. I will go ahead and get rid of this lovely layout, and I'll just make a blank layout right there, actually. Let's change this. I'll go ahead and change the template size to something less complex. Here we go. We can do the same as well within the cells, within the gallery as well. So if I go here and add a text label, I'll just snap that to 0, 0. Again, the other thing we can do with those contain controls is just reference anything within the parent as well. So if I want this width to stretch all the way across, I can actually just go ahead and change that to the template width for the gallery as well. I'll go ahead and just set a color just so we can see how that looks. Nice green. Okay, I'll go for that. And actually just center align that text as well. So yeah, we can see things in there. So there's just a few ways there. Again, we can snap to the surroundings or any of those parent controls or parent containers as well. So super, super useful. Next up, another good building block for the responsive design. I'll go ahead back to the layout. Let's choose this container right here. And let's move this down here. So the great thing with this container, this is more of the standard container, I would say. With this, we can actually place some controls within it. The good thing and the downside potentially as well is we've got freedom to place where these controls go, which is good. But it doesn't mean that they'll by default get dynamically laid out or change position based on what we do. We've actually just fixed the position where we want those controls. But if we want something where we're going to have some kind of dynamic layout, we can actually go back to the other containers and either use the horizontal container or the vertical container. So I'll go ahead and pick this horizontal one. Let's move this down here, stretch this across. Now with this one, I'm going to add a few buttons to this one. Let's add a few more. And what they're doing is they're actually dynamically stacking them from left to right. So it's gone from this origin at the top left, moving them across. So again, they're not manually placed with that full control, but it does mean that they're actually being handled by this container. Well, we'll go through some of the properties on why it's doing that, but that's a way that it's being handled. So depending on the size, it might handle it if they need to wrap around or something like that as well. So let's just get this slightly nicer looking. We have a gap property right there. We'll just get some gap between them. Let's whack some padding on there as well. So we just move it away from the edge. So far, so basic. One thing we can do within this container as well, we've got a few options here for things like horizontal overflow, where we can either hide it or add some scroll bars. Same for vertical, that's also an option. And also we've got this wrap property as well. So if let me go ahead and select these buttons. I'm just going to change that. Yeah, no, the width is fine, that's fine. So if I reduce this container's width and just move it, we can see it's actually trimming what's visible for those components. But if I actually go ahead and use this wrap property right there and turn this on, it's actually going to dynamically lay out these controls. Again, depending on the solution, that might be something we want or we don't want, but it's something where it's keeping them visible, which in many cases might give a good user experience every time. So let's just bring that back to the full width. Right, I'll go ahead with these buttons. So let's see what else we have with these as well. We've got a few options with these contained controls, these buttons as well. So we've got aligning container right here. We've got things like a flexible width. So I'm just going to turn that on. And now they're actually filling the width of that container within it as well. Let's go ahead and select them again. We've got a few other options with the alignment as well, which could be useful as well. So we've got them at the start, which is at the very top. We could change this. Let me just set my container for these actually. Let's go back in there. Let's make sure I've got all of those in there. Oh, I think I've not changed another property. Sorry, one moment. So let me just grab all these again. There we go. And yeah, so we do have some other options where you can change the placement within that container as well. We can actually change the portions that it fills as well. So right now I've got 5 buttons in there and they've just equally taken up the width within the container there. But we can actually change these proportions based on a percentage, or again, that 12 grid system to say how much of that space that I want them to take up. So I'll just go ahead and change a few numbers in there. Let's change this. I think I've missed one of the properties actually. Let me see. Let me go back in here. No, I think I'm missing one of the properties. But yeah, what we can do with these buttons, if I get it working next time, is that we can actually change this proportion. So a bit like on that grid system that we saw on the other one, I might want to say, well, I want this first button to take up, say, 50% of the width, and then divide the rest with those other buttons across the others as well. So we can actually change this layout if we need to. So again, could be really, really useful if we need to fill that space, whether it be a wide screen or a small screen or whatever the case may be. So yeah, really, really useful. Okay, so next up, I'm just going to have a look at something known as the screen size as well. So there's a really good article on Microsoft Learn about building responsive apps and how the design works. And they mention here about these breakpoints that we've got. So within the width, we do have these breakpoints. We do have some by default. So for tablet or web, we've got this 600, 900, 1200. And for phones, we've got these other values right here. And just to show it visually, we've actually got it broken down to say, well, for the tablet, if that width is between 0 and 600, classing it as a small screen, giving it numbers as well. Larger, up to 900 medium, and then large, and then extra large as well. So these are defaults. These can be changed. If I just go back to the app, if I go to this app object and then go to size breakpoints, that's where they're stored right there. Again, the cool thing with this is we can actually change them, add to them, have many others if we want to as well. I'll actually go ahead and just keep these defaults in there. But what we can do, I'll go ahead and preview this. I've actually just got it to the window size just to show these different screen sizes and that they're visible based on this width. So I'm just showing the width. I'll actually go ahead and change this. So if I move this further down and I go below that 1200, it's now showing as a screen size large. If we go further again, we'll reach the medium. And if I really squish it, then we get to the small right there as well. So again, there are ways we can identify what category that screen size might be and then change the layout depending on that if we need to. So next up, I'll show something with galleries as well, which can handle this quite easily for us. So this could be quite useful. So I've got a gallery right here. All I've got at the top is a header, just showing similar to before. I've got the width, I've got the screen size, but also how many columns I want to show for the gallery. So this gallery's just got numbers 1 to 100. I just use sequence just to generate those. And at the moment, I've got 4 columns based on this extra large screen. So if I go ahead and preview this, so you can see if I scroll through, it's just numbers, nothing meaningful there. But if I go ahead and actually change the width of this screen and actually move it further down, I said if I go from an extra large to a large, I've actually changed it from 4 columns to 3 columns. So that way we're actually changing it, but still keeping them wide enough and readable enough that we can actually go through those. So if I go further again, I'm actually taking it medium to 2 columns, and then further down to 1 column. So again, it's almost like dealing the way we can with containers, but actually this is built in quite easily within galleries. I'll actually just show where this is set. So yeah, if we go to the gallery right there, I'll go down to this wrap count property right here. And all I've done there is just saying based on the size, I've actually just referred to those enumeration values, that small, medium, large, and extra large. I've actually gone ahead and just set the amount of columns that I want to show. Again, this could be a hard-coded value, but I've actually just based it on the screen size just to make it adaptable. So hopefully that part makes sense. Great. Okay, so the next thing, the last thing in terms of this demo, this walkthrough right here, is this component screen. And this is really more of just like on principle, the mindset of what we can do is what I've got here is this header component. I've actually got it right here. We can see it's just a component. I've not actually built it up with the controls right here. If I go right here, I can see what I've done. I've just got a background image, some text, and a border. But all I've got right here is, again, snapping the things like the widths and the heights based on other things that they're relative to. So yeah, really, really useful. If I go back to the screen, it's a way that I've just placed it there, but again, it's snapped to the width because I've got it having that behavior based on the control. So another good approach for reuse is if you're reusing these headers or menus or things across multiple screens, is really then abstracting this out instead of a local component, maybe creating a component library that you can use across multiple apps as well. So again, getting the benefit and the reuse out of those reusable responsive components. So yeah, can be super, super useful. Okay, one other thing I was going to mention as well, just about multi-device layout patterns. There's a really good article here by Luke Wroblewski, very, very good. And many people do refer to this article, even though it's from back in 2012. He's got this really good approach and explained it very, very well with some diagrams here about how those different layouts change. So the first one here, there's only a few, but mostly Fluid is trying to use this column drop technique, but sometimes can leave a margin just really to fill the screen and the size, those specific size of those, what those columns might be. The column drop is really what we see very similar to what the model-driven app does and what I was using there with the gallery as well, getting the wrap count to change based on the width, ideally filling that full width of the screen. But if you do go down, you go from 3 down to 2, and then vertically stack them when needed as well. So this one's really, really common across many Power Apps that I've seen, model-driven and Canvas. We've got some other ones where you get layout shifter, where you can do some really crazy layouts or completely mix things up based on the width as well if you need to. Tiny tweaks is really just not breaking it down into columns, but actually changing the layout of all the controls on the screen and just making those fine-tuned manual tweaks where required. And then off canvas, I've not seen this for a little while, but where you might actually have some kind of horizontal scroll to be able to see all the content of the screens as well. That's another option. So it's a really good article. I do know many people who reference responsive design actually refer to Luke's article because it's a seminal article and very well explained as well. There are other patterns, but these are some of the more common ones that I see time and again as well. So jump back to the slide. So yeah, just to wrap things up, the things we covered there is why would we want a responsive app? Model-driven app, have it out the box, massive time saver, and does really well. The Canvas app ones, we went through a few different options, especially with containers and galleries there as well. And then that really good article by Luke there on those multi-device layout patterns. So if you're still with us, I've made it to the end of this session. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And again, if we've got time for quick questions, great. I noticed the chat's been active, so hopefully a lot of answers in there. If not, feel free to reach out to me after this session. Thank you.
Keith, that was absolutely amazing. Lots of love from everyone. So thank you so much for that. There is time for questions. Is that okay? If that's okay for you?
Please do. Yeah, go for it. Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Keith, again. Kat, are you...
Ooh, Franco just dropped a question.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. Do you tend to go for a fixed font size or vary that with breakpoints?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. No, that's also, yeah, no, great question. To be honest, a lot of the time I do keep the same font size. Sometimes they're based around the accessibility of I've already reached the minimum that some people consider readable. But it's a great question because it can depend on the solution. I think you could still maybe adapt them and then base that reaching a certain minimum that's still readable. I know with some customers I have in the NHS and others, they've got some design guidelines that we have to adhere to. So they've already specified the colors, the contrast, the font sizes, and so on that we can use for it to be acceptable for them, almost like non-functional requirements. But yeah, technically you could do that. You could have a big header and then maybe shrink it or use it in the hero image section at the top or more. But to be honest, most of the time I just keep those same font sizes. But yeah, I think there's value in both approaches. Yeah, great question.
I would like to join in on that right there, kind of put off my session just a little section of it. But I am a fan of using size breakpoints to adjust your font sizes. But you doing that in I think it's the named formulas or the named functions option. So if it's at this particular breakpoint, then we're going to use this size. And if it's at particular breakpoint, we're going to use this other size. So
that's a really good approach as well. And named formulas for the win. It's great when you've got another great reusable place in the app object formulas. And hopefully when we get the user-defined functions where we can use parameters with them as well, we're going to get more extensibility. So yeah, that's a great approach. Thanks, Kat.
Yeah.
Keith, there is another question from Sean. I know you shared a couple of blog posts already, but Sean is asking if you have any a good blog post on these responsive items we can share if others ask us.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't, and thanks, and I think it was you, Anne, who shared Luke's article right there. I don't have any personally myself, and honestly, I've seen some good articles online that is more responsive web design as a whole rather than Power Platform specific or Power App specific, I should say. But many of them refer, sometimes the almost identical diagrams refer back to this article. Again, I think many things out of the box with model driven fall close to this column drop approach as well. But if there's demand out there, Sean, that's a good shout. Maybe some of us should jump on that and write some blog posts.
Craig's already on it.
Halfway through it now, yeah.
Okay. There is also someone, what's his name? Tolu Victor. I don't know if you heard of him. We'll share his YouTube channel. Yeah. He is really good when it comes. He did at least couple of videos on the responsive design as well. So I highly recommend his channel. I'm actively working on it, and I believe Charlie as well to have him present for us at some point. But from what I gather, he's quite busy. So yes, fingers crossed that will happen for us soon.
That would be good. He's got as you say, his YouTube videos are good, and he explains the some of these concepts really well about the containers. I actually learned a few from Tolu Victor's channel about the containers and the capabilities that we have. And I think he's 2 into a 3-part series on responsive design. So yeah, I would recommend checking them out.
Yeah. Happy to hear you can agree, and some other one on the chat as well. Kat, do you want to keep postponing, or are you ready, my darling?
I mean, I'm gonna do a live demo too, so we'll see what happens. So yeah, I guess I can share my screen.
I'll stop the share. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks for the great questions and feedback.
Thank you, Keith, again.
Thank you, Keith, for volunteering yourself here. All right, so I'm going to do more accessible content because we can always do with more. I'm Kat Schneider, user group leader here. Let's see, can I get this thing to work? There we go. So Kat Schneider, senior software engineer, Hitachi, just always naturally asking questions, love to learn new things about coding, love to help people, and it has led to MVP status, because why not? I am going to do a live demo because I am wholly unprepared for this. So everybody, strap in. We're ready to go, right? Let's see if I can find the right window to share. Are we here? Are y'all seeing this? Yes? All right. So yes. I decided I was going to try and do some things here in some accessible content. I found out about these ARIA labels. I don't know if anybody's heard about them before, but they show up in HTML, and I was always like, what is this? Trying to figure out what an ARIA label is. Apparently, It is accessibility content that's built into HTML. And I don't know about you guys, but I am a big fan of the HTML control inside of Canvas apps because it gives me the ability to actually do things that I want to do that may be a little bit harder to do with the regular controls. Like, I don't know, who's here ever wanted to have a table that just displays a table of information, or you wanted to have multiple different fonts, or you wanted to be able to have some emphasized text in there, or, bold. HTML is the way to go. I actually tried to start this one, and I was like, I don't want to deal with Dataverse right now. I'm more familiar with and trying to build stuff out of SharePoint. So I was going to go in here and customize this form for this SharePoint list that I have. And we're going let's hope the demo gods work today. Real fast. Come on, guys. You can do it. I believe in you. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Listen, I presented on Saturday for the low code, no code 24-hour event, and I only found out about 24 hours before that I was doing it. So this is why I'm unprepared today, but we're going to do this. All right. Oh, it left it in here. Look at that. I was hoping that it wouldn't. Haha. So I actually put in a container because, like Keith, I'm a fan of containers, and containers are probably one of the greatest things that ever have come to Canvas apps in the last year and a half. So modern controls, still debatable on whether they're the greatest things yet, because some of them are still in preview. Not all of them are GA, and I think I've heard something about GA for most modern controls by the end of the year. Other MVPs, correct me if I'm wrong. But that, I think, is coming. But until that's fully out there in GA, I'm going to stick with the old controls. Also, huge fan of form controls. I love form controls as much as, certain other MVPs, Shane, hate form controls. I love form controls. All right, so what we've got here, when you normally come in here, can I cut and delete this, delete and paste? Really? You're not gonna let me paste? Here we go. Okay, so when you normally come in to SharePoint form, it gives you the form, it gives you a bunch of fields filled in already. I tend to like to put in a vertical control. The very first thing, especially if I'm starting from scratch, the very first thing I'm putting in here is a vertical control. So I go in and I find my vertical control, of course, container. My vertical container, ta-da! And I put that bad boy up in the top corner. Of course, I don't want to do it, right? Because I'm trying to demo. And parent.width and parent.height. And so now I've got this guy, my gap. Sometimes I will go in here and I'll just auto set this for 20, and then I use that 20 gap for the rest of all of my containers that I nest inside. But there's a point to this. I swear to you all, I'm getting there. Actually, I'm going to turn the visibility of this form off for right now. So inside of my container, I also want this thing to stretch all the way across, and I'm going to leave it at that. So now I want to put in my HTML control. And this is going to be this is the first screen that I get to when I open up my form in SharePoint. So I'm going to go in here, da-da-da-da. And I don't know about you guys if you know about this, but the H1 control gives me the ability to, not see my container. Why? Auto height. Need to turn on my auto height. So font size. This font size is automatically set in here. However, I have set a app font size up in my formulas before, so set it to 14. So I can just copy that bad boy right over here to my font size, take this 10.5 out, app font size, bam. it's in there, it's going to be set like that. It sets it for H1. If I just had regular, left it here just instead of H1, where did I go? Here we are. Take out H1. If I set this to span, now it changed size. It's no longer H1. So accessibility, where does this play into this part, is going to be the big thing about accessibility in screen readers is it would like to know exactly where it is in the screen. So having the call out specifically for your headers is it's going to say that this is a header if I use H1. And it knows that this is the very first header of this document, not H capital or exclamation point. But anyway, so there's my contacts. I can set this background to give it a little bit of a buffer. And then the next thing I do is I actually will put in here another container, vertical container. Oh, wait. Sometimes I will do this, other times I won't. This one I actually would like to use the padding. So the gap is going to be the same as my parent. And then my bottom padding, I'm going to say is self.layout gap. And then top is going to be self.padding bottom. This is going real well, guys. Take it forever. Oh, I didn't want to copy that one. Nope, didn't do that. Oh, and I clicked off of it. Sad face. All right, here we go. Got padding, bottom, Control AC, and this one. B. Okay. Take out the 0. All right, now what I want to do is I want to actually stick my SharePoint form in there. And I want to copy, cut. I'm going to cut it. And then I'm going to paste it. Nope, undo. Paste. Because they had to go in here and put the code in there, right? No! Hey, I really did it now. There we are. Cut. Control B. There we are. Show my, oh, it's not going to show because I turned off the visibility. There we are. Oh, man, look at that. It doesn't quite fit. I need to make it fit. So, fit. Set by container. Oh, yeah. Why is that? Well, it's because the minimum width is not wide, or it's too wide. So, I'm going to say parent dot width minus 2 times parent dot bottom. All right. So why did I hold up? What are we doing, guys? Minimum width. It's not minimum width. Screw it. 100, baby. Cool, guys. This is what I wanted. There we are. Width. Set by container. Oh, there we go. I got it figured out. Sorry, guys. That's what happened here. Container. This one should be as tall as the parent. Height. Self or parent. Height minus self dot y. And there we go. Now it's all stretched out. Okay, so still getting into the accessible content, we've got a first name field. Somewhere in here, is it going to show it? Oh, all the way at the bottom. That's fun. That's where I wanted to go. All right. One of the things that I hate about SharePoint or any of the form controls is they give us this data card label and they assign some arbitrary width to it. And they've also got this, star, whether it's visible. I personally don't want this star to show up. I don't like this data card key. It is not helpful for me. So what do? I get rid of it and I put in a HTML text label. And is it gonna delete them? Delete? No. Oh, why? I have to unlock. Delete. Ta-da! All right, so then I'm going to insert my HTML. And actually, normally I will put this inside of a container, but it's a demo today, so I'm not going to put it inside a container. I'm going to change that to 0 and that one to 0, and the width I'm going to change to parent.width. And I'm going to set this auto height font size. I'm going to set to my app font size and width. Oh, you know what? Haha. Data card is not set to fit width. There we go. We got fit width. And then data card value, this guy, I want it to show up. What is it? HTML text 2? Here we go. Control Shift D. Nope, that's not it. Alt. There we are. I want it to be HTML text 2. So that's going to offset it a little bit. And then, no, Copilot, I don't want your help today. We're going to go over here, and I am going to say, I'm going to take all that out. I'm going to throw in a $sign, and then I'm going to say parent dot data field. What? And then I'm also going to throw in here if parent dot required. I'm going to then put in span style equals group. I'm going to say font. No, wait, is it? It's color. Take it back. Color equals, I think it's dark red. We'll just put red for now. And then font weight, I'm going to go with, say, 700. And then I'm also going to put in a title. This item, or this field, is required. And also, wait, one more thing I forgot to throw in here. That guy. Here I am. I'm going to put this, and I'm going to close this up. Span. So now I have a nice little red thing here that's going to say, hey, this is what this is. Oh, also, I can change this. So this says H2. Close this one up. H2. And now it's really big. That's hella big. So big. I don't need it that big. I'm actually going to take style equals, and I'm actually going to take the padding out. 0 pixels. And apparently I'm taking the margin out. There we go. Still really big. You can adjust it. It doesn't have to be that large. But this gives us the ability that if I go down here and I hover over this, hey, this tells me that this field is required. It's pretty cool. So that was just kind of one of the fun little things that I like to do there. If I go in here, because I have added my font size as 14 and I'm using that as the actual font size for what I'm doing, if I wanted to change that to 12, it now updates all of my font sizes. And if I did that for all of my card or data cards here, I would have that there, and it's pretty awesome. The only other thing I would suggest is making sure that you update your tooltip so that it is self.html text, and that still comes across so that you can have that first name. If I don't have the space in there, it should show up a little bit better. So, but that's about it. That's what I have. I hope that's helpful for folks. I hope that was fun, that you guys learned some things. And any questions?
Any questions for Kat? Oh, we have a question from Philip. Oh no, Philip's.
Allow Mike. Philip, if you unmute, you should be able to.
Sorry, mistake. Okay.
Oh, I think we can allow all mics now. Same, Charles. Oh my God. How many times have I tried to make components? We don't have enough time for all of the things that I would love to do. But yeah, one of the things that I like to do instead of building in Canvas is building in Visual Studio Code. And then I can have code snippets that I can then just copy and paste into my Canvas, if you will. So, and then that gives me the ability to actually use components when I need it.
Yeah, my latest technique is to create something and then copy the YAML snippet and then just replace variables in the YAML snippet to use it kind of like a component, but yeah, it's still not quite the same thing.
Yeah. And having the ability to copy the YAML code now and paste it like from various applications that's pretty awesome.
I love it.
So anybody else? Notepad loaded with snippets. You don't have to have a notepad loaded with snippets if you just build them into your Visual Studio Code. And then you can just have ready-made snippets that you can fill in with variable requirements, which is pretty awesome.
Okay, I believe there's no more questions then. No, I'll take it as no. Kat, thank you so much for presenting for your own user group.
Right. I really wanted to talk about ARIA content, but I ran out of time to like really get caught up on that to really like share. So
submit your next session, Charlie, and I will have a chat. If you can jump a queue or something. Okay, no, I'm just going to...
We want other people to present. So please, absolutely. Even if it's 15 minutes.
Absolutely, present. Yes. If you can... If you can present for us, that'll be absolutely amazing. I'm just going to very quickly share my screen to talk about the next user group. Ta-da-da-dam. Is it coming through?
There it is.
There it is. Yes. So next month call, I'm not confirming the speakers as we usually do on each call. However, I'm announcing the next month we're gonna have a holiday special from the land down under. So we will have some speakers from Australia and New Zealand. Because of that, the session will be slightly later than usual. So UTC and British time, as I believe most of us are within the same time zone, it will be 10 p.m., so quite late. However, thanks to that, it will be first thing in the morning in Australia. So yes, please keep an eye open for the post coming on LinkedIn within the next few days when we confirm all the sessions, names and the titles. Again, potentially we'll be aiming to have the session slightly longer, hour rather than hour and a half. But again, as I said, we'll put all the details up there. And just let me quickly move on to our last slide. As I mentioned at the beginning of the call, we will have the recording available on our YouTube channel within the next 24 hours. So if you do want to rewatch some of the content, please do. We will be also posting that on our LinkedIn. If you can, please repost that for everyone else to see it within your network. We'll be very grateful. And if you can provide feedback from this call or generally from any feedback you have about our user group, we will be extremely grateful for you to do so. And again, I keep encouraging to submit session, even if it's 10-15 minutes. If you need any support to choose the subject to help you prepare, please reach out to me directly, or Kat and Charlie. We're more than happy to help you with anything you will need. So that is it from me. Does anyone have any general questions?
Gabrielle asked about the link for the next event. Do we have something available yet?
Yes, we do indeed. Be with me. There was the QR code. The QR code, it's should be working.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's it, did everyone get a chance to scan the QR code for the next event? I will take it as a yes. And again, as I said, if you didn't have a chance, we will be sharing that within the next few days with the registration and confirming the speakers. Thanks so much to our speakers, and thank you for everyone for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Y'all have a good rest of the week.